I'd like to ask Michael Frand to come up and say over the eulogy that's paid him from Rabbi Frand.
The sages tell us, Ein omrim lifnei hames ela devarav shames. The most appropriate words of hesped that one can offer are the words of the niftar, the deceased himself. I would like to share with you 2 emails that David sent me over the past 2.5 years. The first one is from shortly after he was diagnosed. I had come out to Seattle during the summer to visit David, and we took a walk around the loop, as we had done so many times. He shared with me some thoughts on his situation, and I later asked him to put them down in writing, for after all, he was a gifted writer. He did so, and with his permission, I included that letter in my Teshuvah drasha for that year. Here are his own words about what he learned at that point about life and the prospect of death. While I wouldn't have chosen this test, I continuously look for the brachos in it more than the klalos. I remember asking my wife, can you imagine going through this without a solid belief in Hashem and the support of the community? Now more than ever, we appreciate the extraordinary foundation that Yiddishkeit provides us. And I shudder at the thought of how I would have dealt with my condition without it. Anger, blame, bitterness are the things the secular world seems to be focused on, instead of accepting a challenge for what it is. Only Hashem knows what my fate will be. In the meantime, we have the power to tefillah, teshuvah, and tzedakah to influence him. What he was saying, in effect, was something that we say every day in davening. Ashrei ha'am she'kacha lo. And even more dramatically, how fortunate we are to be Yidden. Baruch Elokeinu shebranu lichvodo v'hivdilanu min hatoim. David did not waver from those thoughts throughout his ordeal. He was grateful for every minute and tried to do the most with the time allotted to him. The other email was from last winter, after he came back from Eretz Yisrael. I used those words as well in the drasha. Again, David's own words. After 2 years of fighting cancer, I have learned a great deal. I have observed how others deal with life-threatening disease and recognize that the only thing we have control over is our attitude and what we choose to do with our lives, knowing better than most how precious and precarious each moment is. Many people are focused on themselves and their tircha. They ask, why me? What did I do to deserve this? I'm bitter, angry, etc. When visiting Rabbi Nosson Tzvi Finkel Shlita last January, I had the privilege of observing how he conducts himself in spite of advanced Parkinson's disease. Rav Finkel is outwardly focused. He thinks of others and does what chesed he can do, whether it's eitzos, kind words, or just listening to him. He is not a man who lets his disease define who he is. Rather, he is a man with a mission who happens to have a disease. In my humble attempt to follow his example. I have learned that by turning my attention to uplifting others, I am less obsessed with my own situation and find myself uplifted in the process. On my last visit to Seattle just 3 weeks ago, I went over to speak with David. He told me, Rabbi Frand, I'm slipping away. I suspected that this would be our last visit, and unfortunately I was right. He shared something with me which was putting into practice those sentiments of the previous email. He told me how, in his condition, he had to be on the receiving end of so much kindness from others, his wife in particular, his next-door neighbors, and so many people in this community. But it bothered him that he could not give anymore. He then told me that on a recent visit from his sons-in-law, he offered to polish their shoes with a shoe shining kit that he had. He then told me how good it was to be able to give. Forgiving was something that defined his life. There is so much more to say about Ruth and her superhuman devotion to him throughout, about his daughters, who were the pride of his life, but now is not the time. David Hyman not only taught us how to live, he taught us how to die as well. Yehi Zachor Baruch.
I witnessed the last few days of our fellow David preparing to leave this world.